In this video, I am going to discuss about the different types of high velocity forming. So, based upon the classification, the first type is explosive forming. So, here a punch is conventional forming is replaced actually by using a explosive charge. So, the explosives can be either high energy of chemicals like your TNT or RDX, or even dynamites can be used for generating the high pressure. So there are many factors to be considered during the process, such as the size of workpiece, the geometry of deformation, and the behavior of work material under the high stress, energy requirements, cycle time, and safety consideration. So there are basically, we can classify this explosive forming into two different types. One is unconfined type and the other one is confined type. So first we are going to see about the unconfined type of explosive forming. So here the work is supported on a die and the die cavity is evacuated. So the explosive is placed suitably inside a water medium and definite standoff distance is being maintained from your work. So when you just trigger your explosive, so a high pressure pulse, like it will be producing a high shock wave. So this high shock wave will generate a high amount of pressure and force towards your sheet metal. So this high amount of force which is being developed because of this shock wave will make your sheet metal to get deformed and to form the actual shape of your die. So this is the technique. But here, since during the explosion the gas bubbles may be produced. So this gas bubble is produced which expands spherically and then it collapses. So finally the pressure pulse impinges the work and the metal is deformed into the die with a very high velocity. So this is unconfined type of explosive forming. And then comes your confined type. So here the process is same, but we are going to detonate the TNT or your explosive inside the work. So here you can see that it is a confined space where you have a cartridge above. So inside this cartridge, into the between your work, we are going to place your explosive, and surrounding that we have your forming die. So whenever you ignite or whenever you detonate your explosive, so suddenly this tubular tube shaped workpiece will just get expanded and it will form the shape of your die. So if you place your explosives into the work and if you deform to the particular shape of the die, then it is called as a confined type or contact type. The next type comes here is your hydroforming process. So this process is also called as a hydromechanical forming or hydraulic forming or hydro punch forming. So in this the metal is being fabricated or formed to a required shape by using a rubber diaphragm or a hydraulic fluid. So this rubber diaphragm it will make to be expanded, okay, such that it applies a higher force in your sheet metal to get deformed and then it forms the required shape. So instead of using the rubber diaphragm, you can also use a hydraulic fluid to apply a higher amount of force in your sheet metal, so that when you apply a high pressure by using this hydraulic fluid, your metal will get deformed and it will be getting the actual shape of your punch. So this is called as your hydroforming process. And then comes your pneumatic process. So similar to your hydroforming, instead of using either rubber pad or your hydraulic liquid, here we are going to use a high pressure pneumatic air to create a high amount of force in your sheet metal, so that this high amount of force will deform your material and then it will be forming into the specific shape. So here a vacuum pressure has also been applied in the bottom of the vent, which makes the plate to fit exactly in the die. So the plate expands from the shape of the mold. So the high source of pneumatic pressure in this is your energy source, so which generates the high force and makes your sheet metal to get deformed and to actually get the shape of your die. So this is how this pneumatic forming works. And then comes your electrohydraulic forming. So here we use a electric discharge. Okay, so it is also called as a spark. So it is produced between the two electrodes, and this discharge process, it produces a shock wave in the water. So you can see that the electrodes are being placed inside the water, immersed inside the water, where due to that high amount of spark energy, electrical shock wave will be produced inside the water, and this high amount of force which is generated because of the shock wave will apply on your sheet metal, and it will be deformed to form the shape of your die. So here you can see various elements such as charger, capacitor bank and switches to just trigger the electrode so that the sparks will just get initiated or ignited. So whenever there is a spark, the shock waves will be generated, and this shock waves will be made to apply a heavy force or pressure on the sheet metal to get deformed and to form the shape of your die. And finally, we are going to see about electromagnetic forming. So here the electrical energy stored in a capacitor bank is used to produce an opposing magnetic field. So around a tubular workpiece surrounded by a current carrying coils. So the coil is firmly held, and hence the workpiece collapses into the die cavity due to the magnetic repelling force. Thus it gets the shape of the die. So these are all the various different types of high velocity forming. Thank you.